Hi, I'm Cavin Elizabeth, a wedding photographer based in San Diego and also a bridal boutique owner, and today I am going to be talking all about wedding dress codes. So it is really important that for your wedding you set a dress code, because I promise you your guests are going to be wondering what to wear, and if you do not set a dress code, they are either going to have anxiety about what to wear, or they're going to have that and they're going to ask you all kinds of questions. What should I wear? What's the dress code? So you do need to set one so that you avoid guest anxiety or having yourself bombarded by all your guests asking you what to wear, and you do need to put it on your invitation or your wedding website or both. So this is a really standard thing to have on the invitation, like black tie optional, casual, whatever you choose to have. Make sure that you put it somewhere where your guests are going to see it. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the many different kinds of wedding dress codes that you can choose. Now, if you're wondering how should I set my dress code, one thing that I would have you guys consider is, what do you want your guests to look like in your wedding photos? So when you're looking at your wedding photos, maybe you have an album. I hope you do. I hope you print your wedding photos, because otherwise, I don't know, like, what's the point? But that's just me talking as a photographer. I have a wedding album. I love looking through it a couple times a year. I just love that tangible feeling. So when you're looking through your wedding photos, what do you want your guests to look like? So that's the number one thing. The second thing is you can always match the vibe of your venue. Now, you don't have to do this, but one thing that I would suggest is not going less casual than your venue. You can definitely go more fancy than your venue's vibe. So if you have kind of a rustic venue, you can definitely go formal, but I would not go more casual than your venue. So if you have a country club venue, do not do a casual dress code. I would definitely not go more casual than your venue is. So if you've got a really elegant venue, do not have a casual dress code by any means. But if you've got like a beach venue, you can definitely go casual, something like that. So you can match it for sure, but don't go less than. So jumping right into the first one, I'm basically going from the most formal to the least formal, and then I've got one at the end that's kind of unique and out there on its own. So the most formal is white tie, and this one I actually do not have any photos of because it is the most rare and the most formal. So this is something that is going to be probably not something that most of you guys are ever going to get an invitation to, because again, it's just really, really rare. Maybe it's more of a thing in like the UK, like in Britain, if a really fancy people wedding, or an East Coast thing, maybe in Manhattan, but this is just not something that is very common. So for white tie for men, it's going to be very strict. So men are going to be in a black tailcoat, a white vest, a formal white shirt, a white bow tie, and possibly white gloves. Definitely really fancy, like opera style dress shoes. And for women, this is going to mean a long formal gown. I'm like not even a short cocktail dress. This is very formal and fancy, the most formal that you can possibly think of. Definitely Google white tie attire for men. Not that you will probably even be going to this kind of a wedding, because again, it's very rare, but if you're just curious, you can Google this, because I don't have any photos of this kind of attire, at least not for men. For women, I have plenty of photos of women in long gowns from weddings, but not for men. So the next one, which is a little bit more common, is going to be black tie. Now, black tie is what I had for my wedding. We might have technically had black tie optional, but I think all the men ended up coming in black tie, which was really fun. We wanted our wedding to like look and feel really fancy and have guests dressing up. We wanted it to be a really just formal event because our venue was very grand and formal, so we wanted everything to just feel really luxe and just really elegant, because we never get a chance to dress up like that like ever. We live in San Diego, which is a very casual city, so we wanted it to be black tie and really like just fancy schmancy. That was what we wanted for our big day. So for black tie, that means formal evening wear. So for men, this means a tuxedo with a bow tie, and then for women, this usually means a long formal gown, but some women will, for a black tie wedding, wear a cocktail dress, but that cocktail dress does need to be very formal and dressy. You can't get away with like a cotton cocktail length dress for this. It does need to be very formal and elegant. Obviously dressy shoes for this type of event. You don't want like casual sandals, but for this is a very formal black tie event. Obviously no suit and tie for something like this for men. This is a tuxedo type event for a black tie wedding. Now, moving on to the next type of event, which will be black tie optional. This is something that is like black tie, but a little bit more flexible. So for this, men can expand to maybe a dark suit and a dark tie, so it does not have to be a tuxedo. So you could wear a suit to this, but it should be dark. I would not really recommend going with light colors for this. It needs to be kind of dark because it is like black tie optional. So for women, this could definitely be expanded more towards cocktail length dresses, so it doesn't necessarily have to be as formal and as fancy as black tie, like strictly, but it's still definitely going to be a very formal type event. So you're not going to want to show up in cocktail or semi-formal type attire, which is going to be the next thing that I'm going to be talking about. So for semi-formal and cocktail, I would say that this is probably, at least in San Diego, the most common type of attire that I see for weddings. So this is definitely going to be for men more of like your khakis and your sports coat. So you can definitely go tie optional for an event like this. If you want to play it on the safe side, keep the tie, but this is by no means like a bow tie required, unless you're a bow tie guy, in which by all means wear your bow tie, wear your fun bow tie. But this is definitely a tie optional, but again, if you're like, tie or no tie, go ahead and go with the tie. For women, this is definitely cocktail length dresses. If you want to go with the formal floor length, by all means, you can totally do that. You can never really go wrong by overdressing for a wedding, so whenever in doubt, always go over rather than under, because it's totally okay to be a little bit overdressed. You definitely don't want to be underdressed for a wedding, so I would always err on the side of caution and go a little bit more extra than under. So for something like this, a cocktail length dress or maybe even a jumpsuit, I see a lot of jumpsuits at weddings these days, or like a pantsuit option would be really cute, like a cute pair of like high-waisted pants and a nice blouse, maybe even a blazer in case you get cold later in the evening for women would be really cute. So something like that is going to be really nice for a semi-formal or cocktail type event. The dresses that women wear at a lot of these events, they could be a little bit more like cotton type feeling, so a little bit more like a sundress. That's totally okay for something like this, just as long as it looks still a little bit dressy. You don't want anything like super casual, like you would go wear to the beach or something like that. You still want to look nice and presentable for a semi-formal or cocktail type event. Now, for casual attire, I see a lot of casual attire for beach weddings, or maybe if you are having like a farm wedding, or if you're having a wedding on, I don't know, like a boat or something like that. So that's where I see a lot of casual attire weddings come into play. This does not mean jump straight to jeans or something like that. So definitely play it safe, unless the couple has specified some sort of theme, like, I don't know, a rodeo wedding or something like that. So definitely don't read casual and jump to the most casual thing in your closet. You still want to be nice and presentable for a wedding. So casual does still have some guidelines for that. But for men, this can mean like just a regular button down and khakis. I would not go for shoes for straight up flip-flops. I would maybe wear a more casual shoe, but not like plasticky flip-flops or something like that. I don't know, it just seems a little too casual, but for women, a nice sandal would probably be a great idea for something like this. That's totally appropriate for a casual wedding. And for women, for attire, a casual dress, or maybe some dressy longer shorts, nothing too short, and a nice blouse would be appropriate, or even another jumpsuit or a nice dressy romper. I say dressy in the context of casual because you don't want to go too casual, like you're just going out like to the mall shopping. You still want to put in some nice effort into this casual attire, but they say casual because it's still an event, but it's casual in the sense that you don't have to get dressed up like fancy dressy type attire. Now the last thing that I wanted to talk about kind of defies most things I've discussed because it's going to be for a cultural wedding. So if you have been invited to something like, let's say, an Indian wedding, and the couple has asked you to dress in a cultural attire, then you need to make sure that you do your research or ask the couple or go by their guidelines and buy or rent an attire that is going to be appropriate for for that wedding. And in this specific context, it is not cultural appropriation to dress in the way that the couple has asked you to dress for their wedding. It is being respectful to abide by their request to dress in that way for their wedding. So make sure that you have done your research and you show up dressed appropriately from head to toe to attend whatever kind of cultural wedding you are attending, so that you look like all the other guests there. So Indian wedding, maybe some sort of Vietnamese wedding, whatever you are attending, you want to look like everybody else there. And again, that is not cultural appropriation if you have been asked by the couple to dress that way. In that sense, it is cultural appreciation because you are abiding by the couple's request to dress in that manner. So it's something really beautiful to participate in that culture, to celebrate the couple and their tradition. That is pretty much everything for the dress codes for weddings that you could possibly think of. So choose your dress code and put it on your invitation, put it on your wedding website. Maybe you actually want your guests to dress in your wedding color palette. That's something that's really pretty. We actually asked our guests to consider doing that. It wasn't a requirement, it was just simply a request. And everybody pretty much did that for the most part, and it made our wedding pictures look really cohesive. Again, it was not a demand, it was not a requirement, it was just an encouragement. We really just said on our wedding website, guests are encouraged to dress in the wedding color palette. We had a ton of colors for our wedding, like we had like 8 of them, so it was really easy to do. So you can do something like that. I've seen tons of couples do that. So when you get your wedding pictures, everybody looks really cohesive and it's really pretty. Just to give you guys a little idea, it looks really cool in pictures, and I encourage it if you've got a fun color palette to go with. But anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you are not subscribed, be sure to subscribe. I put up videos every Tuesday, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!